Hello, welcome to Salt and Light Canning. I'm Jessica. This is my kitchen. I'm happy that you're here. Today I am making some molasses beans. They're like barbecue beans, just without the tomatoey base. I have here approximately 8 pounds of white beans. It's kind of a mixture between Great Northern beans and navy beans. And I'm gonna fill my jars to about halfway of pre-soaked beans. So I washed these last night and then I soaked them overnight. And so I'm just gonna fill my jars to about halfway. And no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't know about you, I love having beans on the shelf, and dry beans are great for your long-term storage, but for me personally, if I don't can them and have them ready to use, we don't eat them because I do not take the time to plan ahead and soak the beans and all the things. So the best way for me to ensure that we're using what is in our long-term storage is for me to can it. Also, dry beans are seeds. You could plant your dry beans in your garden and make more beans. They're just a wonderful thing to have in your food storage. And with everything, just to make sure that we're going through it and nothing expires, I rotate through my pantry stock and then I never have to worry about it. I'm gonna finish filling these jars and I'll be back when I'm doing something else. I have 26 jars of beans, half full of beans. Now to each jar, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of dehydrated carrots. And you can use fresh carrots if you want. I have dehydrated carrots, so that's what I'm using. You don't have to add carrots at all. I just like the way it looks in the jar. And it adds a little sweetness, a little color, a little something to your jar. But please do what you like. Also, to each jar, I'm going to add probably a tablespoon or a little bit more of dehydrated onion. You can use regular onion. I just really like the way the dehydrated onion holds up in the jar. It seems to not disintegrate as much as a regular onion that you cut up. All right, now that my jars are filled, I'm going to go over to the stove and make my broth. So I anticipate needing about 2 cups of broth per quart jar. I have 26 quart jars with beans, so I need like 52 cups of broth. In this pot, I have 40 cups of filtered water. And to that, I'm going to add 2 cups of brown sugar. And it wasn't packed, it was just loose brown sugar. 1 cup of that W sauce. And 8 cups of molasses, because this is a molasses-based broth. Do my best to get it all out. Now I'm going to add some spices. I have vegetable bouillon, probably about 8 tablespoons. Some smoked paprika, probably like 4 tablespoons. Some of this barbecue seasoning, probably 4 maybe more. I really like it. I'll taste the broth and see if we need to add or change anything. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of mustard powder. Give that a stir and get everything dissolved and heated up. Smells really good. Smells like baked bean sauce. Now when it comes to your broth, you can add any kind of spices that you want. You can add as much or as little molasses as you want. It really is all your preference. It's not going to affect your timing for canning. Since I have quart jars, I'm still going to process for 90 minutes. So get creative. Or if you just like simple baked bean sauce, then do simple. You get to have some freedom in your kitchen. All right, I'm gonna let this just heat up and come to a boil, and I'll be back when I'm filling up my jars. So I brought my broth to a boil and I tasted it, and it's delicious. And so now I'm gonna fill my jars to 1 inch of headspace. Now, because this is sugary, you're really going to want to make sure that you stick to that 1 inch of headspace, because if you don't, you can have a lot of expansion and you can have a lot of a mess all over the place in your canner, and that's not what we want. So, and some of my mustard powder is a little clumpy, but I'm not really worried about it. It'll be fine. Everything will come out in the end, okay? So don't worry about things. And don't worry about your beans. They are still going to continue to expand as we cook them, and even as they sit on your shelf in the liquid, they will expand to fill your jar. So I'm going to fill to 1 inch of headspace. Make sure you debubble really, really well. I'm going to wipe the rim of my jar with some white vinegar, because that's what I always do. Make sure you don't have anything sticky on the rim of your jar, anything that would get in the way of a good seal. And we'll put our lid on, and I line them up. You don't have to, you do you. I have to, it makes me nuts. And we'll go to just fingertip tight. I'll move on to the next jar. Now, how many jars you get in 8 pounds of beans is going to depend on the bean and how much water they absorb when you soak them overnight. When I cook beans in any kind of broth or sauce, I soak them. If I'm just doing plain beans, I really don't bother with that. Just because I'm going to rinse them before I use them anyway, and I'm just not worried about it. And when you're pressure canning for 90 minutes, everything is going to cook in the jar. I know that's not the recommended, but it's what I do. Please do what you feel safe doing. Some people will actually cook their baked beans. They'll put them in the oven before they put them in the jar. Please do what makes you comfortable. I'm perfectly comfortable with this, and I know it's going to be delicious. But anyway, I'm just going to keep filling jars, and we'll be back. I'm doing something else. I am pressure canning these beans. It's a low acid food, so I'm pressure canning it. I know some people, it's their canning culture to water bath can everything. Not saying anything against that. If that's how you've learned and that's your culture, then please do that. I'm running both of my canners. This is the 23 quart Presto pressure canner. Absolutely love it. This is the 16 quart Presto pressure canner. Also, I absolutely love it. One of the best things about this one is I can double stack pints. And for this one, since I'm doing quarts anyways and I can't double stack, this works really well also. I just have a lot of jars and I only want to run, you know, the canners twice. Otherwise, I'd have to run one canner 4 times, and that's just a lot of work. But I've done that before too, so please, please do work with what you have and what works for you. This works for me. So I'm gonna get my lid on, and I have my pressure gauge in. I'll bring it up to temperature. I want it to vent out of this vent for 10 minutes before I put my weight on. I have a little bit more than 3 quarts of water in the bottom of these. 3 quarts is what my manual says that I need. And I have a little splash of vinegar just to keep my jars clean and not have the sediment on them. So I'll be back. These are going to process for 90 minutes. Beans process for the same amount of time as meat. So if you're running a canner load and you have some extra space, might as well just throw a couple jars of beans in because they process for the same time. So I'm going to run this for 90 minutes. I'll be back when I'm taking them out of the canner. My timer went off. And turned everything off and let the pressure come down slowly. This one's done. This one still has a little bit of pressure, so we're just gonna let it do its thing. I don't touch it, I don't mess with it, I just let it come down slowly. Then I opened the lid and let it vent for a couple of minutes. And now the jars have just been sitting in here for a couple of minutes. And now we're ready to take them out. Everything looks better in the jar. I don't know off the top of my head how much baked beans at the store cost, but I do know that I paid about $1 a pound for dry beans. And for about $1 a pound for dry beans, I got 26 jars of baked beans. Altogether, that's not bad at all. Canning saves me money. And it also means that we eat the food that's in our dry storage. So these are going to sit here on the counter, and tomorrow I will take the lids off and wash my jars and then put them in the pantry. Let me know if you give this a try. It is just wonderful having different kinds of beans on the shelf. These are perfect for a barbecue or a side dish, and for an afternoon of passive work, I have 26 meals worth of food on my shelf. So I think it's worth it. If you're going to start pressure canning, I can't recommend enough pressure canning your dry beans. It does help you go through what's in your dry storage. It helps your family learn to eat the different things that you're storing, especially like for your long-term food storage. And it helps to give you practice to can more expensive things. But anyway, check out my link below. You'll find my Amazon storefront. That's where my canners are and most of the things I use in my kitchen. But anyways, be so blessed. Know that you're loved and be a blessing to someone else. I'll see you in the next video.